obviously, as long as he's going to be in the game, everybody's gonna point out that name and point out that fight for him.
Danny Gaffone for Pro Boxing Fans. We're in Tampa. It's a pleasure to be joined by Shane Mosley Jr. Shane, congratulations on the week, the other win. We'll come on to that, but we're here for Jake Paul, Mike Perry. We've just had the weigh-in. I think all Jake Paul weigh-ins kick off, get crazy, and we saw just that. Break me down what you thought of what we just saw up there.
Well, obviously, they get in each other's face. Everybody's excited and amped for the fight, and Jake pushes him, and I saw him and Mike Perry going flying, so that's not a good sign for Mike. Jake looks very, very strong. He looks like he's ready to knock him out, like he says.
Jake, when he came into professional boxing, a lot of people didn't take him seriously. They called him a YouTuber, an influencer, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more people start to give Jake his credit. His last 2 fights were against professional boxers, albeit of what level we'll let people decide for themselves. As a professional boxer yourself, are you starting to take Jake more seriously? I've seen Clarissa Shields on Twitter today. She says she views him as a real boxer. Do you?
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely a real boxer. A lot of boxers fight MMA fighters like in their early career, right? It's a real thing, and that's how you get your experience fighting fighters. And he's fought some of the best MMA fighters of all time. Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren. He's fought some of the best, and he's knocked them out. Or dropped him. Nate Diaz dropped him. So how could you say that he's not a real boxer? He's knocking out and dropping world-class athletes, and he takes the sport seriously. He does. I know this from firsthand because one of his strength and conditioning coach is also my strength he's my strength and conditioning coach, and he works with real guys. He has Jalen Love. He has Third. These are real guys that are in the sport, right? He was trained by my dad. So how could you say that he's not a real fighter? That he trains with all people that are in the sport, and he does 3-month camps, which is insane, right? Most of the time, I'm not doing three month camps. You get as long of time as you possibly have, but three month camps are hard, and he does them for his fights. So with that being said, the guy is truly a fighter. He takes it seriously, and that's what you would always want to see in somebody who's coming from something like YouTube or whatever they're coming from. You just want them to take it serious, and he is. And he's brought a lot of eyes to the sport. This arena tomorrow is going to be probably filled to the brim, and because of him, and that helps me as a boxer, as a fighter, because it brings eyes to my sport, which means it brings money to the sport.
Absolutely. You mentioned some of the previous MMA fighters that Jake has fought. Mike Perry, he's known for bringing the heat, bringing the pressure. He's the king of violence. In your opinion, is that going to be enough against Jake Paul on Saturday night?
I think early on it could give him some problems. But like I said, when you see that Jake could push him that far and that hard, you go, okay, that could be a problem for Mike, later on in the fight, right? You could see the size level, and that's why we have weight classes. I'm not sure what the situation was as far as the weight was concerned, but it looks like Mike's a little bit smaller, and I think that's probably going to play an issue later on for Mike. Early on, obviously he brings it, he comes forward, but that also can get you knocked out. And that pressure fighting you could run into a shot. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think that Jake is probably going to knock him out.
We shall see. Shane, as I touched on at the start of the interview, big win for yourself the other week against Danny Jacobs, 10-round decision win. How do you reflect on the fight? Have you watched it back? You must be over the moon to get the win over a name like Danny Jacobs, former world champion. Talk me through now, we're a week or so past, how you reflect on that night.
Yeah, it was a great win, great boxing. I feel like I thought I boxed well. I thought, watching it back, I probably could have pressed on the gas a little bit towards the end in areas where maybe I could have stopped him. But that's here nor there. Hindsight is always 20/20. I felt like I put on a great boxing match, and I thought I won decisively. I thought I won every single round. Like when I watched it back, I'm like, who can say that they shut out a legend like Daniel Jacobs? You know what I mean? Not too many people. Not even Canelo or Triple G. Not just trying to say that, but like they didn't. Obviously, I fought him at a different time, but just to even say that I shut out Daniel Jacobs 10 to nothing is insane, right? So with that being said, I thought it was a great performance, and I want to leverage this into a world title. You know what I mean? Erislandy Lara, I've been calling him out. I would love to fight Carlos Adames or even Janabek. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what's going on with Janabek as far as the weight class is concerned. He did miss weight and couldn't fight, but we'll see what happens. But nevertheless, I want to become world champion. So any of those guys, I'm willing to fight. I want to leverage just this win, right? If you get a fight like this, and who else am I going to fight? I can't go back down. You know what I mean? It's like I can't fight a regular guy now. I'll just beat a legend. I got to fight it for a championship now.
The fight against Danny was at 168, so obviously I'm guessing from the names you've mentioned, you see your future at 160.
Yeah, I've always wanted to become undisputed middleweight champion, right? That to me is a goal. A little bit because of my dad. You know what I mean? Like when people say, "Oh, you aren't as good as your dad," or you weren't as good as your dad, I can always point and say, I was undisputed champion. When was he? You know what I mean? So that's my dig at him. So that's why I want it so bad.
What's it like being the son of a Hall of Fame fighter? Like obviously we've got Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. up here. Obviously had his ups and downs of his career. I mean, there's so many. You got Chris Eubank Jr. over our neck of the woods. Campbell Hatton's.
I would love to fight Chris Eubank Jr. That would be a great fight. I would come to England for that one. Like who wouldn't? That would be awesome.
What's it like having that pressure, that big name? And you mentioned, people say, "Oh, you're not as good as your dad." Do you feel the pressure sometimes?
What's funny is I don't ever feel it. Other than like when I come to fights and stuff like that, right? I know that that's the perspective that a lot of people have, obviously being in the game for so long. I don't necessarily put that pressure on myself, and that's one of the reasons why I liked to have like my dad as just my dad, right? Like I didn't want him to be my trainer. I didn't want him to be anywhere involved in my boxing career because, it's a lot easier to not have that opinion or those questions if he's constantly not around, right? If I'm just around him when we're just hanging out and stuff like that, and he's just my dad, then it's cool, right? They'll bring it up whenever they bring it up. But if he's constantly like right here, he's my coach, and he's like, they're gonna be, "Oh, well, you're not as good as him," and right, all the time. So that's why I like that. But as far as the mental aspect of like the pressure, I don't ever put no pressure on myself anymore. You know what I mean? I think I used to a little bit, but I'm too old for it. You know what I mean? It's like, this is my career, right? I can't think about him. I can't compare myself to him, right? I want to become, undisputed champion truly because of me, right? Because of my legacy. And then I could say, if anybody says that, then it's like, okay, yeah, well, when has he done this? You know what I mean? But I want to do it for myself because I love the sport and I love what I'm doing, and I want to elevate my sport. So that's why you do all the things that you do to elevate your sport, elevate all the people that support you, and just give back.
Absolutely. Shane, last thing I want to get your thoughts on is a man who I believe you sparred, albeit quite a long time ago, Canelo Alvarez, up at 168 now. I don't know what weight he would have been back then, but the fight we all want to see is him, David Benavidez. Whether it looks like it's going to happen, people have their conflicting opinions, but how do you, first of all, sum up what Canelo Alvarez has gone on to achieve since you sparred him? I'm not sure if you sparred him recently, and how do you see a fight going between him and David Benavidez if it was to happen, say, later this year?
Yeah. I sparred him years ago, and he's become a great fighter since. He's done it all. He has the legendary, probably one of the best careers in boxing, right? He's fought everybody. He's done all you need to do. He doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, need to fight a guy like David Benavidez. David Benavidez needs to fight him, right? But obviously, as long as he's going to be in the game, everybody's gonna point out that name and point out that fight for him because they want to see the best fight the best. So I think that it's a great fight. I would love to see it happen. I don't necessarily think it needs to happen, but I would love to see it happen. I think that David Benavidez might be a little bit too young. He like as far as I think he would have the advantage because of the youth, right? He has the fresher body, right? They both are explosive. They both throw good combinations. They're both veterans, but I think that because of the youth, I think David might be a little bit too young and too fresh for him.
Shane, thanks for giving me so much time. I will let you go. Enjoy the fight Saturday night, and yeah, top man.